I think in India, it's most of the time neither the horse nor the jockey. We have to place a bet on the racetrack because the racetrack itself is moving most of the time. So that's what we really place a bet on most of the time. I mean, I think we take it for granted that both the horse and the jockey are acceptable. So one or the other may be slightly better than the other, but both are acceptable. But most important is the racetrack, by which I mean the underlying framework, the environment, the regulatory policy, all of that. So that's a bigger issue for us. And that ties down to what you spoke about earlier, or what all of us spoke about earlier on uncertainty. I think there's a huge amount of uncertainty in an evolving economy like ours. And this uncertainty is looked at very differently by strategic players and by financial players like us. Strategic players have a much longer runway to address it.
Right.
As Piroj Shah was earlier talking about, his sector is one where there's a huge amount of uncertainty and evolving regulatory policy, but then they are here forever. So while a lower ROE today may be a concern, it's something which they have time to address and so on. We unfortunately don't have the same luxury. We are financial investors. We need to see realizations in a finite time frame like 5 years or 7 years or whatever the fund life is and so on. So for us to be caught at the wrong end of a regulatory cycle can be a disaster. That can actually spell the difference between making returns and actually writing off our investment.
Right.
So therefore we address this in a very different way, and we would actually go to the extent of shying away from sectors where there's a much higher risk. A very practical example is, for instance, the spirits business.
Right.
You will see very few financial investors, private equity investors in the spirits business, because in India it's a highly regulated business. It's an extremely attractive business in India, but it's a highly regulated business, and that's not a business which many of us have the bandwidth in terms of time to enter. So same goes for a number of infrastructure sectors and so on. So I think that's a big difference between the way a strategic player and a financial player would address this.